In my last video about Scots pine, where I demonstrated just how readily they backbud, how vigorous they are from summer and spring pruning, I got asked a number of questions, in particular about Mugo pine, Japanese white pine, and did they all act in the same way? Well, in this video I'm going to answer several of those questions. I'm going to show you just how easy it is to develop and manage Japanese white pine. We're also going to be looking at the Mugo pine, going to be answering a question about that, and tell you exactly why there is a difference between strategies on this and indeed the other two single flush pines. I'm also going to return back to the Scots pine. I'll talk about the mistakes I made, and probably the biggest single common mistake many of us make when we decide to throw things into the ground, particularly our pines. And in fact, I'm also going to tell you why I would deal with this developing Japanese white pine completely differently from the finished refined one that you saw at the beginning. This is all about making sure that you, as the beginner, can stop being afraid and worried about this, which is a very easy tree to build as a bonsai. So there's loads of great information for the beginner, even for those of you who are a little bit uncertain about your pruning times and your pinching schedules. This has got to be what you want to watch. Hiya, it's Xavier. Welcome to my bonsai retreat, and we're about to hit another 2-week heat wave, and isn't this a spectacular tree? Yes, there'll be loads of you saying, gosh, there's so much growth on it, you need to thin it down, you need to compact it, and that's all part of the thrill and joy of working with white pine, in particular with a very old Japanese white pine, which I would estimate is certainly well over 50 years old. I picked up in 2002, you've seen it on this channel many times, and today I'm going to make it quite clear how easy it is to do both spring and summer pruning and why we do the techniques we do. And trust me, by the end of this you'll realise just how easy it actually is. So firstly, the questions offered by Robert and Bob, and actually similar to the other question as well, is do I treat my Japanese white pine exactly the same way as my Scots pine? And the answer is a big resounding yes and no. And the reason there's a no to it will become very clear very quickly. But beautiful tree, it's been through the wars, it's had some health issues, but right now we've got lovely vibrant growth, nice strong candle growth, and giving it a spin. You know, yes, I've got to do a lot with the shaping, I've got to do a lot with thinning out some of the amount of shoots we've got on this, but the truth is, to be able to do any of that, you first need to have all this foliar growth. And that's probably the first thing I'll say to you about any of your pines. You need foliar growth before you consider doing any sort of work about shortening or pruning. And I'll tell you why in a second. I'm going to bring out the big elephant in the room here straight away. Yes, it's very thick and heavy. Yes, I do need to prune it back. And yes, potentially, we've got a branch just here that is opposite another smaller branch, and it's on the inside of a bend. And this came up in the last time I showed this video, and someone suggested, hey, you should remove that and then consider redesigning the tree to cover that gap. I spent a lot of time looking at it. I spoke to a good friend of mine, Yellow, of Growing Bonsai, and in the end we agreed that sometimes our trees design themselves, and to remove such a great big branch right now would be detrimental to the long-term design of this tree. It is as it is, it's an old one. That, without that branch, would be a massive gap. And yes, I could do a number of bending, but the loss of all that foliar growth would not make it worth the effort, in my opinion. And again, it's all subjective, but I'll deal with that one right now. And there'll be other people say you can be bringing the wires down, creating a greater slanting on those. Yes, all those things will happen, but this is not a video about styling. This is about equipping you with all the stuff you need to make sure that you can get out there and get a pine in your hands and deal with it credibly, hopefully. So right now, Japanese white pine, it's a 5-needle pine. There's a number of others like that, but generally for the bonsai enthusiasts like myself, this is the only 5-needle pine we'll encounter, certainly in the UK. I know we've got a couple of US, is it Strobus or something like that? I think we have got a couple of other 5-needle pines. And there's something uniquely different about these and the Scots pine. brings us back to the question, do you treat them the same? The Scots pine, you saw me, I was quite happy to pinch candles in the spring to either bring them back into the profile or to redistribute the energy across the tree. I don't pinch my Japanese white pine as a general rule. And the reason why I don't is these are long needle pines, and if I pinch those candles in the spring, the remaining growth that's there, the remaining needles that are still yet to open up, will grow longer. But there's always exceptions, and that is if you're trying to push energy further back into some of the younger shoots that are growing further back closer into the tree, which is going to be the future of your tree, then one of the ideal ways of doing that is in the spring to actually pinch the shoots and accept the fact that you may get longer needles at that point. But bearing in mind what you're trying to do is to actually build up strength in younger growth closer into the trunk, that is worth the risk of longer needles on stuff that you will eventually, a year or two further down the line, cut off. So as a result of that, this spring, I think apart from one candle I pinched back for the very reason I wanted some back budding to be given a redistribution of energy, I left the candles as they were, and as a result of that, this is what you see. And you might actually say you've got no extensions, you've got no real growth of candles that you need to do anything with. And truthfully, that's not too far from the truth. But if we get in close to one, I'll show you exactly where I could do some candle cutting or shoot cutting right now. And indeed, it's right here at the back of the tree, right back here. And I'm sure you can't see what I'm wiggling right there, so we'll get in close. And what we're looking for is where we've got an extensions of shoots on still what we call foliar growth. It's still very, very green there. And what you're also looking for is the sheaths that actually contain those 5 needles start falling away. And normally if you tap your finger, those brown sheaths will actually drop, certainly if you have paper onto that, and I've shown that in another video as well. So the indicator you're looking for is that you've got those little brown rice paper sheaths have started to drop, and normally you're going to be starting to see that around mid-June. The brown rice papers drop, that means the needles won't get any bigger, and that's the key reason we're looking there. It's still fairly fleshy within the actual new candle growth. That tells us that it hasn't yet turned to vascular, it's still foliar, and that means that we're still going to be able to set new buds at the junctions or bases of the needles that remain. So if you've got those indicators in place and you're satisfied that you want to shorten the new candle growth, then you can literally look in close, and so long you leave a minimum of two sets of pairs of, I say pairs of needles, but 2 sets of pairs of 5 needle growth, then you can cut anywhere you like within there. And just go in, nice green and fleshy, and cut it out. And looking in close there on this one, still got the sheaths there and there, and I've got some there. So I've left about 6 to 7. I could actually, bearing in mind I've got these ones still here, go even further. Cut that whole groove off. What I've done there is I've balanced the thing so it's the same height as that side shoot that's there, and that's absolutely ideal. And what will now happen is 2 new buds will be activated at the junction of those needles, and that's going to continue the growth that we need and the ramification. It's also balanced the energy between those two. Now I want to make one thing pretty clear here is you have quite a tight window, 2, maybe 3 weeks, and right now I'm right at the far end limit of that, and you know it's that case because once they go from that green fleshy growth until and they start becoming that greyer, more vascular look about them, then at that point if you start cutting then it's unlikely that you're going to get any new buds set at any junctions of any needles you've got there, because it's now turning into vascular growth. So it's critical. As soon as those brown sheaths start dropping in like rice paper, and you've seen the fleshy growth of the shoots, that's when you can do the cutting. As soon as they start turning a greyer colour and it's been 2 to 3 weeks later, the reality is you leave it, you wait till you get to the September time, or until you get to the September autumn fall time when you can do a completely different set of work. But I suppose that's the big difference. The Scots pine is much more vigorous, so you can do these cuts. Well, you saw I'm quite happy to do those cuts right through the early summer period. Japanese white pine, you're looking for those indicators. Now, while we're talking about the sort of growth we get and look back to spring, this one was absolutely covered in purple flowers, and often you hear people saying, oh, if you see flowers, get rid of the flowers early, it's draining energy, any number of things. Well, I'll say quite clearly from my experience, that's not the case. If you see flowers on this, it means it's a very, very healthy, happy tree. There's one big downside with flowers, and you're seeing it all across this, is if you look in close, you've got this lovely candle that's extended, and you have to wait until you get nearly 2 centimeters to the top before you actually see any more needles. All that flower growth takes the place of where new needle pairs would be. So it's reduced, in this case, my ability to cut right back down because there's nothing viable lower down. So it means I have to accept that I'm going to have this extra long 2 centimeter length. And to my knowledge, there's nothing you can do about it. Removing the flowers isn't going to change that. And I suppose that brings me on to the other thing with your Japanese white pine. You've got first, second, third year needles. Now, your first year needles, you can see them, they've come from the shoot, they're all nice, fresh, green, whatever length you want them here. They're about 1 centimeter long, absolutely ideal length. The second year, you can tell them because if you look in close, the tips have all got yellows right at the end. And to tell you this, I used to think that meant there was something wrong with them. But no, all that sign of yellowing is telling you that's a second year needle. It's starting the process of, I was going to use the word evisceration, I don't think it's evisceration, falling off and dropping off. You know it's a second year needle because if you gently try and pull on it, it's still holding firm, so don't pull it off. But what you can do at this stage is have a look further back along and see if you've got some older third year needles. And these, if you just very, very gently move your fingers along, you'll find, and they'll come off very, very easily. And probably the only other needles I'd be removing, if you look at the profile line, we don't want needles on the bottom. So gently remove needles that are just on the base. Go around and pluck them. A lot of people use some tweezers to do it. Grab them at the base, where they enter, where they come from the shoot, and just slowly remove and pluck them, and that's going to give you that nice flat profile that we're looking for. If you want backbudding, there's a simple answer right across the range of Scots pine, Mugo pine and Japanese white pine. If you want backbudding, let them grow. Just let them grow out, and normally that's when we're talking about our refined tree. That's normally when we're talking about our developing. But if we look, say for example, on this branch here, now all along this length here, I've got absolutely no inner growth, and ideally I'd want stuff much closer in. If I start pruning or candle pinching or reducing the foliar mass at all in this, then I'm reducing the need for the tree to send those life-giving juices and sugars through it. It's like a motorway. If you've just got a little A road, B road, little dirt path, not a lot of traffic goes through it. There's no need to have side roads on it or anything like this. For me to get this tree to put out back growth and back budding, I basically need to allow these candles to extend. I need the whole growth to extend out. And then I'll be looking and getting what I see here on this branch here, where I've actually got two buds that have come out from last year, and I can see the beginning of some nubs of buds that will show up probably next year. So will I do any pruning at all on any of this growth right now? No. I want as much superhighway energy going through this vascular tissue to allow the tree to continue to feed that, and only when it's bigger, a couple of centimeters and perhaps showing signs of backbudding itself, will I then be able to cut back, which is what we're getting higher up. So I've gone around this and I've cut any of the candles that I feel I need to cut. The third year needles, got rid of all of those, and now I'm looking at the close stuff that we do with all our pines. We want to reduce the risk or effect of swelling at our key junctions, i.e. reducing 4s to 3s to 2s, and also looking at opportunities where we've got healthy inner growth to actually reduce the mass, certainly if we look higher up here, which is one of the things I need to do on this tree. And if we look at this particular one, right here, we've got a branch that comes away, and then we've got 1, 2, further back we've got another shoot up here, and then we've got this lower one coming out away from the profile. I can now go in there right now and cut that back, removing all that growth. And now what we've got is the ideal. We've got 2 lateral buds coming out in the direction that we want. And as I say, this isn't going to be about a pine redesign. I think I've just destroyed the bends on this. We keep going around looking for those opportunities to reduce and compact the growth to viable, healthy new shoots closer in. And if you don't have those viable shoots closer in, then the only way you're going to get them is to allow the existing growth to continue to grow out. And if we look here, we've got an example just here. We've got 1, 2, and a third one behind it. I'm quite happy to keep these 2 here and remove the one that's behind it, leaving us for 2. Again, just checking I haven't got any 3rd year needles there. And I'll still remove some needles from crotch growth, and those 2 will be nice viable new shoots for the future ramification. And of course the other thing we'd be looking to do is check our wire, and this has been on for just on a year, and already that wire is starting to dig in here, so we're already looking at having to take the wire off, which is why I tend to avoid copper wire on a vigorous Japanese white pine. But also you can see there, that is a future bud. I think we've got another one just a little bit further around here, and you've got to be careful when you're wiring. You don't want to be knocking those off. Indeed, that could be one that I actually knocked off last year when I wired it. But that's the sort of growth we're looking, and that's why we won't necessarily prune growth that's further out. So in summary, for me, for Japanese white pine, in the spring, I don't pinch the candles unless I am actually trying to get a lot of energy distribution to buds that have opened up, that have developed over the year before. So I want to redistribute that energy closer into the tree, otherwise I leave them, and the reason for that is I don't want the long needles, especially on a refined pine. So I've managed to keep my little grubby fingers away from the tree in spring. The candles have continued to extend, loads of energy and sap and sugars are going through that vascular tissue, and it's pushing it into the back-budded areas and shoving more growth into those, and I'm getting really joyous and happy. And then I see those sheaths fall away. Now is that window. I've got 2, maybe 3 weeks when I can get in there, and if I want to cut candles, reduce the length of those growing tips, or encourage budding at places lower down, that's when I can go in there and do that cutting. If we get beyond the point where they've gone from green fleshy growth to that more sort of grey look of vascular tissue, don't do it. We wait until September. So as I put this beauty back out on the bench, loads of sun, bearing in mind that what I want to do with the watering cycle with this is give it a good drenching and make sure the root ball is properly soaked through, free draining soil, but then I let it soak right out and almost dry out. So I'll give it a couple of days, checking beneath the soil to see whether or not I need to water it again. This isn't a case of every day. You water it as it's required. They do like to dry out a little bit. As for fertiliser and other regimes, this isn't the video for that. There will be a separate video coming up, probably in the autumn/fall, when I'll talk about all the different fertilising regimes. In fact, I may well even do that over our winter break. But do you know what? Love this Japanese white pine. I like the one to the side of it. But right now, I'm going to leave this to enjoy the sun and to continue to grow. Do need to watch out for that wire though. Next time we'll see this is when I come back in September and actually do all that work that needs to be done to thin it in and do the redesign and rewire. That's going to be worth watching. Do you know what? We've been at this for a while. The sun is blaring down. I still need to answer the questions about Mugo pine. I still need to show you what I'm going to do with the developing Japanese white pine, and indeed bring you back and have a look at a couple of the Scots pines that I promised we'd talk about. But I think we'll leave that for the second part of this great video series. So please do me a favour, hit bell notifications, hit subscribe, like and share this with anyone you think might benefit from knowledge, particularly in this one about the Japanese white pine, which is absolutely a brilliant tree and truly very easy to deal with. So, not much more to say. There's another great video to watch. Otherwise, happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.